Welcome back to Kari's Confessions, a nonprofit exec tells all. I'm Kari Anderson, principal with Incite Consulting. I spent 25 years in the nonprofit sector in leadership roles with 7 organizations. Now, I provide coaching and consulting services to ensure that nonprofits, like yours, have the structure, systems, and practices to do your best work. Wherever I go, I continue to hear that nonprofit execs need a space to gather, to receive tools, feedback, and advice that encourages them to stay the course. Doesn't seem to matter if you're in a village of 182 or a metropolis of millions. Nonprofit work is both gratifying and lonely. I'm here to make sure that you have a chance to breathe, laugh, smirk, and hopefully get excited again about the important work that you do. Today's topic is building capacity. And when I'm thinking about building capacity, it's using contractors and partners to aid you in your success. So building capacity is always at the top of the list when I talk to nonprofits about their challenges. It feels like there's never enough staff, never enough money, and never enough time to accomplish the things that feel like extras, like marketing or creating a great newsletter. But here's the deal, friends. Those things aren't extras. They're an important part of telling your story, communicating with donors, and increasing awareness about your work. I recognize not every organization can hire a dedicated marketing and comm person, and not every organization has the capacity to hire a full-time HR person. That list goes on. When that's the case, I urge organizations to explore utilizing contractors to get the job done. So 3 takeaways from today's podcast. 1, benefits of utilizing contractors. 2, tips for finding the right fit. And 3, clarity as to who does what in the employer-contractor relationship. So here are some benefits of utilizing contractors. Contractors are perfect for filling the gaps, especially if your nonprofit is just getting off the ground, or if your nonprofit is really small and has limited capacity to hire additional staff. The truth is, finding the right people with a desired skill set, personality, and cultural fit for the long term can take time, something that's precious when your bottom line is community focused. The right contractor will not only temporarily fill the role, they'll flesh it out and provide you with a better understanding of what the job entails. When you start the hiring process for an employee, the contractor can give insight into the day-to-day tasks about how their work synchronizes with other departments. Engaging them in the hiring process wouldn't be a bad idea either. A contractor will agree to specific terms of a contract or an MOU, which include a time period and rate of pay. As such, you can use them to complete specific projects as needed without a long-term ongoing expense. Contractors are independent and not hired as staff. This can be a benefit and a challenge. I'll dig into this a little bit later, but when you hire an independent contractor, you are agreeing to have little to no control over how their work gets completed. It's a very different relationship than an employee, and you must fully understand those parameters to be within the law and ethics. Not all jobs require a full-time or part-time employee. If there's a particular need in your organization that takes less than 30 hours a week, a contractor may be a great option for you. Your organization gets the support it needs, and your staff doesn't have to manage spillover work, like tasks that aren't exactly a part of their jobs, but are necessary for their jobs to function. Contractors are great for seasonal work. It's no secret the nonprofit sector's busiest time of year coincides with the holiday season. November and December are equivalent of the rapid dash to the finish line as organizations aim to meet their year-end goals. Describing this time as stressful is putting it lightly, to be honest. Burnout is already rampant in the sector, and the end of year is no exception, as many of you just experienced. However, with the right contractors in place, your staff will avoid that typical burnout as they won't be carrying the load alone. There are also contractors who specialize in year-end support. Often these contractors focus on fundraising, but you can hire a contractor to manage your campaign's social media, handle the increased customer service requirements, or take over several administrative tasks, freeing your staff's time up for the year's last campaign. So here are some tips for hiring the right contractor for your organization. Be sure you understand what it means to hire an independent contractor. Organizations find themselves in some heat by embarking on a hiring agreement that isn't clearly defined and or using the term independent contractor status as a way of avoiding pay employee benefits while still treating the contractor as an actual employee. there's big time legal issues when this boundary is crossed. There's a big difference in an independent contractor and an employee, including well-defined laws around hiring an independent contractor, and you must ensure you know them and follow your state and federal guidelines. Before posting happens to request proposals, spend some time getting feedback from members of your team who will be working with a contractor. Be sure you understand what gaps exist so that you can clearly define the scope of the project in the request for proposal, or RFP. Outline the project work specifically with a timeline and estimate of hours needed. Get a variety of project bids. Not only is this a great business practice, but it allows you a better idea of what types of contractors are out there. And while they may all do similar work, a cultural fit is going to be most important for you all in order for this working relationship to be the most beneficial for both parties. And craft an independent contractor agreement and ensure you have an attorney review it and your board approve it. So, who's responsible for what in this working relationship? So, the independent contractor should complete a W-9 for you, invoice you for services prior to your organization issuing payment. This would be separate from the deposit that's made in order for the contractor to start work with you. Honor the agreement as outlined, which means meeting deadlines and fully completing the scope of the project. I love creating creative ways to build capacity, and I believe that independent contractors can be a great way to go. Contractors are a really useful way to get work done and work well in areas of accounting, marketing, seasonal, and fundraising work. It's just incredibly important to understand what it means to utilize independent contractors and ensure you're compliant with state and federal laws. I know I sound like a broken record, but this is a big deal. So that's what the contractor should do. But you as the client also have responsibilities in this relationship. Prior to signing the scope or contract or MOU, right? There's a variety of names for this. Review it and ensure that specifics that you're requiring are included in the final agreement in writing. Remember, contractors cannot read minds. And if it's not in the scope, you can't add it on, right? You can't assume or demand that the contractor perform work in a certain way if it's not as a part of the original scope. Remember that that contractor is not an employee. Again, be familiar with your state's employment laws and ensure that you are not directing contractors' work like you would an employee's. Fully participate in a scope of work. What does that mean? Well, attend meetings, return communications, ensure access to systems and data needed for the contractor to complete their scope, and pay your invoice on time. So today's takeaways, right? Benefits of utilizing contractors, tips for finding the right fit for your organization, and clarity as to who does what in the independent contractor employer relationship. So make sure to follow me on your favorite streaming platforms, including YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. Many of you may know that I'm no longer on Facebook or Instagram. Yep, that's right. I'm only using online platforms that work for me. So for additional resources and tools, follow me on LinkedIn. You can also check out my website at inciteconsultinggroup.com. Thanks for joining me today. Have a great week.